All right, if you're away from our digital media production class today, I'm going to show you a way you can do the assignment even though you're not here. Now, actually in class, in person today, we're using Photoshop to do this assignment, but you won't be able to use Photoshop on your Chromebook. That just doesn't work. So here's another way you can do it. Let's do it like this. If you're on Chrome, on Google Chrome, open a new tab, and that's what you see right here. I have a new tab open. We're going to work our way to a website called PEA. There it is. It's photopea.com. Take a look at that. PHOTOPEA.com. This should work fine on your Chromebook. I've done it on my Chromebook. Actually, I'm not recording this movie on a Chromebook, but I've used it on a Chromebook and it works fine. When you get to photopea.com, it looks very much like Photoshop, very similar. And what we're going to look at today is gradients. And I want you to learn the idea of gradients. It doesn't matter that you're using Photopea instead of Photoshop. That's okay. It's going to help you learn it anyway. All right, so here's what we're going to do first. We're going to make 5 of these, and they all have to be different. And I'll show you what I mean, all right? So start by right here in the middle, click New Project. Next, up here kind of on the top left where it says Name, New Project, let's name that Gradient number 1. We're going to do 5 of them. I might not do all 5 in this movie, but I'll give you the idea. And there's a width and a height right here, 1280 by 720, which by the way would work okay. It's not bad. But if you want a different size, there are sizes right down here in these different categories. Social media, print sizes, screen sizes would work well for this. If you wanted to do screen sizes, those are down here as well. I might just leave this at this 1280 by 720. It'll be fine for what we're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and click this Create button right here, and you get kind of an empty white canvas. All right, so we're going to use today, we're going to make different kinds of gradients, and I want you to learn a few things. The gradient tool is right over here, about halfway down the toolbar. Keyboard shortcut is the letter G on your keyboard if you want to use a keyboard shortcut. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. Now, the next thing you might want to check is if you come up here to the top and you drop this menu down, there are a handful of gradients that are available up here. All right. And yeah, that doesn't really have a whole lot. But you can customize this. And so I'm going to show you how to do that here in a minute. But for the time being, let's just say that we pick maybe this one that starts with orange and then goes to yellow and then goes back to orange. All right, and you could use any of these. Now I want you to learn a few things about gradients here. First of all, one of the things that I want you to learn is this: the direction that you drag makes a difference. When you take this tool out and you click and you drag, the direction makes a difference. If I go, well, you know what, I need to change, I'm going to change my gradient for a minute because I'll go to this blue and orange. This will work better for me to demonstrate what I'm going to show you. All right, so I'm going to get this blue and orange, and if I click at the bottom and I drag to the top, I want you to see what happens. All right, I guess it's kind of purple, but the purple is where the bottom is where I clicked first, and the purple got put down at the bottom, and then I dragged up, so it went from purple to orange. But what if I take that gradient tool and I click at the top and I drag to the bottom? Did that make a difference? Yes, it did. The purple's now at the top and the orange is at the bottom. What would happen if I clicked over here on the left-hand side and I dragged over here to the right? Purple on the left, orange on the right. And I bet you can guess if I go the other way from right to left. Okay, so all I'm showing you here is that the direction makes a difference. Here's something else that makes a difference. I want you to know this. If I click at the bottom and I just drag a short distance, right? Can you see that? I'm not dragging very far. Oh, that made a difference. There's only a little bit of purple and a lot of orange. Or if I drag, I could go diagonally too. If I drag diagonally, I click and just go a short distance. There's a little bit of purple and then it switches over to the orange. So the thing that I'm telling you here is not only does direction matter, but distance matters as well. All right. So let's pick up some of those kinds of things. Now, I said that you got to do 5 different. I want to see 5 different examples of just these documents filled with gradients. These are kind of like backgrounds that we're making, right? So let's say that I do one kind of like boom, like that. It just kind of starts with purple and it fades into orange as it goes across. And let's say, okay, I want that to be one of my 5. I like that one. Okay. Well, so what you would do if you make one that you like, you would go to the File menu up here on the top left and just do Save as PSD. Now, if you are working on your Chromebook, what's going to happen there is it's going to save it on your Google Drive. Mine, I'm doing this on my desktop. I'll have to kind of get this out of the way here in a second. Um, I'm doing it on my computer at school, and it saved it into my downloads folder. And my computer is set up here at school so that if a Photoshop document gets downloaded, it automatically opens it in Photoshop. Oh, well, that's okay. But what's going to happen for you if you're doing it on your Chromebook, if you go File and you go Save as PSD, it's just going to save it on your Google Drive. So you'd be able to turn it in here in a little bit from your Google Drive. All right, now, got to do 5 of them, right? So I'm going to go File, New. Okay, see that? File, New. And again, I'm going to call this one gradient number 2. All right, and I'll just keep, the size doesn't matter that much to me, really. I'll just keep this 1280 by 720, and that's okay with me. I'll click Create. And let's look at the next thing that I would like for you to know about when you're working with gradients. I'm going to keep this purple and orange for right now. We'll get to other colors here in a minute. Just stick with me. But I'm going to stick with the purple and orange for the time being. The next thing I want you to know is right next door to this, there's a little kind of indicator here where I have picked the purple and orange gradient. Right next to that it says linear. Well, that's what you saw in the previous example. What if I drop that menu down? Oh, there's other kinds of gradients. So what's a radial gradient? It's this. Oh, okay, it's more circular, right? And the same things are true here. If you only drag a little distance, then you only get a little bit of purple in this example. Or if you drag a longer distance, you get more purple. And also the location with a radial gradient, the location that you click and drag makes a difference as well. Because if you click, like if I click up here in the upper right and I just drag a little bit like that, you see the center of that circle is where I clicked first. So the location of the click can make a difference as well. Now there's also angle, which looks like this. Ooh. So what happens there is it starts with purple and kind of goes around like a clock, from purple around to orange and back to where it started, right? So that's an angle gradient. Reflected works like this. I'll just kind of drag in there. So this one, what it does is, the gradient really just says it's going to go from purple to orange, but a reflected gradient goes from purple to orange up and from purple to orange down. So it kind of reflects, if I drag like that, it kind of reflects the gradient, right? Purple to orange, it takes the spot where I clicked, purple to orange going up and purple to orange going down. That's what it means by reflected. If I did it this way, I would get purple to orange going to the right and purple to orange going to the left. Reflected gradient. Okay, diamond is pretty much what it sounds like. Looks like a diamond, right? Okay, so let's say on my second gradient, I'll just switch it back here to radial and I'll go boom. And let's say that, okay, yeah, I love that. That's it. That's going to be my second gradient. So I go File and I go Save as PSD. Cool. And that's, again, and mine's automatically opening in Photoshop. By the way, PSD means Photoshop document. So that's a little trivia for you. All right, so that's 2 of them. Now here's the next thing I want to show you. I'm going to click File and click New. I'm moving on. This is going to be gradient number 3. And I'm just going to keep the 1280 by 720. That's all good with me. And I'll click Create right there. All right. Now let's talk about color. All right, I've just been using this. I've got the gradient tool, and I've just been using this purple and orange gradient. All right, well, this time, instead of clicking that little down arrow, I'm going to click right on the purple and orange on the bar. Okay, and I get the gradient editor. All right, well, here's the deal with that. On this purple and orange bar here, first of all, I can move. Notice I can move these. This is one way to edit a gradient and kind of make it your own. You can move those around. But here's the other thing. If I say, okay, I don't want to use purple, right? If I click on that purple box right there, and then I come down here and say, what's this? Okay, all right. I was just looking at what that was. If I come down here and say, all right, let's click that. Oh, I get a color picker. Now with color pickers, you can drag over here on this kind of rainbow thing, and then you can drag with this little donut thing. And so what I've done here, and when I get a color that I want, it's showing me what I did have before. I had purple, and I'm changing it to this teal color. And I come down here and I click OK. And now this gradient goes from teal to orange instead of from purple to orange. And I could change the orange if I wanted to. I could come here and say, well, let's click there and maybe make it go from teal to gray. All right, so I found a gray color over here and I click OK, and I've got from teal to gray. Now, you can also do this. If you click right below this bar, you can put in, these little boxes are like color markers, and you can put in as many of those as you want. Just click below the bar. Look at that. I can have a whole bunch of those color markers in there. Just click right below the bar. And I can click on that box and say, well, let's not make that teal. Let's make that some kind of orange color. All right, and I'll click OK there. And then maybe let's take this teal box right here, and I'm just, this is not going to be very pretty, but I'm just making this up. I'll just make that black, and boom, like that. And let's take this box right here and say, well, let's see, let's make that kind of a pinky purple, and click OK. So what I'm telling you here is, look how I'm customizing this gradient. It's me making up the colors now, right? This isn't Photo P picking the colors for me. This is me getting in there, designing it kind of any way I want to design it. Now, if you have a color marker in there and you don't like it, just pull down on it. Or I think you can also, and if I do Control Z, by the way, Control Z, it didn't work. I'll just put that kind of pinkish purple back in there for a second. I think you could also select a box and there's a delete button right here. So you could do that as well. So my point here in this one is that you can customize the colors in these gradients as well. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK here. And I've got this really kind of wild gradient, and it's set on radial right now. So look at what it looks like if I, oh yeah, look at that. Look at all those colors that are in that gradient. That's kind of fun, kind of cool. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and say File and Save as PSD right there. And again, I apologize for Photoshop popping up in the way there, but just ignore that. All right, and now I got like one more thing to show you. So I'm going to go ahead and click File and click New. And this is going to be gradient number 4. And I'm just going to keep the 1280 by 720. That's the width and the height. Okay, that sounds good to me. All right. Now, I'll go to the gradient tool once again, and I'm going to drop this menu down. You will see that some of the gradients that are in here, and we're not going to go into this in a lot of detail today, but some of the gradients that are in here have some checkerboard in them. All right. Well, golly, what does that mean? Checkerboard is transparency. And if you have a gradient, I'm going to pick this kind of rainbow that has some transparency on the edges. If you pick a gradient that has some transparency in it, you can do this kind of thing. And it's set on radial here, so I'll just try it with that. I'm going to come out here on my canvas and drag it, and it just kind of does like that. And I'm not going to make big drags here, but oh, look at that. See what I mean? I can do multiple click and drag, click and drag, click and drag. And now this is working because I picked a gradient that has that transparency in it, that kind of checkerboard pattern. Now I could even come along here. There's another one that has some transparency in it, so I could do, oh, let's see, I'm combining them now a little bit. Look at me go. I'm just getting all creative on what I'm doing here. Sound effects help. Sound effects make it all better. Look at this background that I'm creating here. That's pretty wild. Now that multiple click and drag thing works with ones that have some transparency to them. It doesn't work all that well with these others that don't have any of that checkerboard. right, just a heads up on that. So that's gradient number 4. I could go File, I could go Save as PSD, and let me get Photoshop down out of the way. And then you'd have to do one more. I don't think I'm going to do another one. So what I'm after, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I would like for you to create 5 different gradient. They're just documents with gradients on them. They're just kind of like backgrounds. That's all. That's what we're doing today. We're learning the gradient tool. We're learning how to play with gradients, how to customize them, the different kinds of things that you can do with gradients. And there's more. I didn't show you everything. I don't have time to show you everything, but for today, this will do. Now, when you get those 5 done, they're going to be on your Google Drive if you're using your Chromebook, and you got to get to Google Classroom and go to the assignment and hit the Add button on the assignment. And when it says Add, you can go to Google Drive and then look for, like for me, they'd be called Gradient 1, Gradient 2, Gradient 3, Gradient 4, whatever you name them, that would be what they're called. And you got to attach all those and turn them in. Using Google Classroom. So that's also a job that you have to do there. All right, let's give that a shot. You can send me an email if you have any problems with any of this. But so let's jump in there and give it a try. Off you go.